मैम हमें सेम लिंक से वापस अलग अलग डेट का ये फॉर्म फिल करना है वापस। मतलब अगर पहले मिस्टेक्स हुआ है तो।
So, good morning, students. Our today's topic is methods of communication. This is your third topic. We have already seen concept of communication and objectives of communication. When we discussed concept of communication, in that particular topic, we have already touched upon methods of communication. But now we are going to see these methods in detail. So, our learning objectives are to define modes or methods of communication, to enumerate various methods of communication, to elaborate various types of methods with suitable examples, to understand advantages and disadvantages of various methods of communication, to compare and contrast various methods of communication, to explore the techniques of effective use of each method. So, first we start with the definition of methods of communication. Please note down the important points. A method of communication is a systematic technique of encoding and decoding the message into a suitable form of presentation. We have already seen this particular diagram. Process of communication. First, you have sender, then encoding, message, which is sent through medium and channel to the receiver. Receiver decodes it. Then he replies back, that is feedback. Feedback is again encoded by the receiver and decoded by the sender. Between medium and channel, you have various barriers to communication. Should I change the slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now we will see the process of encoding. First, there is sender. Then an idea comes to his or her mind. That idea is organized properly in his mind. And then it is executed either through speech or through writing. There are 5 stages. Now see its example. First, there is sender. An idea comes to his mind. What do you see over there? Mango and tree. Now, mangoes and tree, he composes a sentence, mangoes on tree. It is either spoken or it is written. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes मैम।
Should I
Yes,
change
ma'am.
the slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now we come to decoding. It is the other way around. First, there is listening or reading. Then there is recognition of individual letters. Then there is identification of particular word. Then there is understanding of the whole sentence. And this is how finally the message reaches the receiver. Again, 5 stages. It is the other way round. It is the reverse of encoding. So, first you listen or read. What is read? Mangoes on tree. But now see the identification. Man goes on tree. What is the understanding? I am going to the previous slide. See the previous slide. When I say mangoes on tree, spelling is same. The only difference is a small space. Man goes on tree and mangoes on tree. Now, whatever the sender has in his or her mind and whatever the receiver understands from this particular phrase or this particular sentence does not match. Why? Because the encoding process in the mind of the sender does not match with the decoding process in the mind of the receiver. Words are same, but the meaning differs. There is something known as Murphy's Law. He says, out of 7 utterances, only 1 is understood properly. In other words, when you express a particular idea in 7 different formats, only once it is understood properly by the receiver. Only one time the encoding process and the decoding process matches. Am I clear enough? Encoding,
Yes, ma'am.
encoding and decoding. Should I change the slide?
Yes, ma'am.
So, methods are nothing but means of communication. That is how we communicate. There are 2 types, verbal and non-verbal. In verbal, we use language. In non-verbal, we do not use language. Under verbal communication, you have oral communication and written communication. Under non-verbal communication, you have body language, which is subdivided into facial expression, eye contact, gesture, appearance, and proxemics. Apart from that, you have signs, symbols, and signals, colors, layout, and design, and finally, silence. Now, we will see them one by one. Should I change the slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Verbal communication. Any communication that makes use of language, whether spoken or written, is known as verbal communication. It includes oral communication. Its examples are announcement, conference, conversation, interview, meeting, public address system, radio talk, speech, telephone talk, training session, etc. So, right now, we are engaged in oral communication. Written communication consists of book, email, journal, letter, magazine, memo, newspaper, notice, pamphlet, report, telegram, etc. Simple enough. Should I change the slide?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Now we come to oral communication. What are the advantages of oral communication? Number one, it is spontaneous. It comes naturally. There is no need to prepare beforehand. It is time saving. You take more time to write down, but speaking takes less time. So it is time saving. Confidentiality. You talk to only those people with whom you want to share the information. It is confidential. It cannot be shared with other people. It can be understood by all the people, whether the person is literate or illiterate, young, old, man, woman, anybody. Oral communication has personal touch. You get immediate feedback in oral communication. As a result, there can be immediate clarification. For example, when we are conducting this online lecture, it is a form of oral communication. I immediately ask you for the feedback. Have you understood? Should I change the slide? I am asking for the feedback. And you immediately give me the answer. Should I change the slide? You say yes.
Yes,
It is
ma'am.
what? Wait. It is what? It is feedback. If you have not understood, I explain. I explain that particular point again. So it is immediate clarification. So these are the advantages of oral communication. It is also economical. You don't require material for oral communication. For writing, you require paper, pen or pencil. Then if you have to post it, then you have to pay postal charges. In case of oral communication, you don't require all these charges. So these are the advantages of oral communication. Please note down. Then we come to disadvantages of oral communication. First disadvantage is it is difficult to organize. Though oral communication is spontaneous, many times people fumble for the words. They have the idea, but they don't have the proper words. So there are fillers like you're organizing your sentences in your mind and you're thinking, and to fill that particular gap between your thinking and speaking, you use the fillers. So oral communication is difficult to organize. The second disadvantage is oral communication is not considered as a recorded proof. It is not accepted as an evidence in the court of law. So there is no legality. Then poor retention. Retention, remembering. If you don't note down the points of whatever is taught to you and you just listen to my lecture, I'm quite sure that at the end of this year or at the end of this particular semester, you will not remember anything. So, the major disadvantage of oral communication is you don't remember it after a long time. Next, low reference value. Because you forget the oral communication, because there is no written proof of it, because it does not have the legal validity, it has very low reference value. It cannot be used in the future. It cannot be referred in the future. Then there is greater scope for misunderstanding. Now, the example that I gave you while explaining encoding and decoding. When I write the sentence, mangoes on tree, there is no space between man and goes. But when I speak mangoes on tree and man goes on tree, it is very difficult to um, understand or recognize the gap between man and goes. So when it is written down, man goes on tree and mangoes on tree. With the space between man and goes, you can understand that these two are different sentences. But when I say man goes on tree or mangoes on tree, there is very little difference that you can identify. So when it comes to the oral communication, there is greater scope for misunderstanding. Then it is not useful for lengthy official communication. A book can be, say, of 100 pages. You are not going to read the 100 pages at one go. Say, to read that particular book of 100 pages, you require 10 hours, for example. But then, because it is in the written form, you can divide your time accordingly. One day you will read 5 pages, next day you will read 5 pages. Like that, you will finish the book in 20 days. Total amount 10 hours. But then you can do such thing with a book. If the same thing I want to do with the oral communication, and if I conduct a marathon lecture of 10 hours, is it possible for you to understand it? Obviously not. In case of a book, You can go back and forth for reference. But in case of oral communication, you cannot do that. And the last point, not everybody is a good orator. Very few people can speak in front of a large audience. Otherwise, majority of people are shy to speak in front of a large crowd. Okay, so these are the advantages and disadvantages of oral communication. I hope you have noted this down. If not, please write it down. I'm repeating once again. Advantages of oral communication: spontaneous, time saving, confidentiality, understood by all, personal touch, immediate feedback, immediate clarification, economical. Disadvantages of oral communication: difficult to organize, no recorded proof, no legality, poor retention, low reference value, greater scope for misunderstanding, not useful for lengthy official communication, and finally, not everybody is a good orator. Should I change the slide?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not getting the
Yes,
answer.
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, we come to guidelines for effective use of oral communication. First, clear and proper pronunciation. Second, clarity and precision. You have to be very good with the vocabulary. Vocabulary, words, choice of words. Next, brevity. That is brief. Your speech must be brief, short but sweet. Next, proper tone. There is something known as para language. It is your tone, speed, pitch of speaking. And the way you speak, the meaning is conveyed. If you change the tone of your speech, the meaning also changes. So you have to use proper tone. Next, correct pitch. What is pitch? It is the proper voice modulation. Whether you are shouting, whether you are whispering, जब चिल्लाते हो तो आवाज बड़ी होती है, जब कान में फुसफुसाते हो तो आवाज छोटी होती है. This is nothing but proper voice modulation. It is correct pitch. Whether it is high pitch or low pitch, it will depend on the context of your speech. Next, right register. Register is the right style and vocabulary to suit the receiver and the situation. There is formal register and there is informal register. For example, when you say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, it is formal register. And when you say hi, hello, it is informal register. Please note down the points. Guidelines for effective use of oral communication. Clear and proper pronunciation, clarity and precision, good vocabulary, brevity, proper tone, correct pitch, and right register. Is it clear to all?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Should I change this?
Yes, ma'am.
You have noted down?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay. Now, we come to written communication. Advantages: mass dissemination. You can distribute the written matter to many people. It is mass dissemination. Suitable for long messages. I have already given you the example of a book. It can be 100 pages long, or sometimes it can be 1000 pages long. So it is suitable for long messages. Next one, exactness of message. Because it is printed, it is written down, it does not change. Even after you go back to a book after 10 years, the words over there are going to remain same. They will not change. So it is a proper official record. It has legal validity. It is accepted as proof in the court of law. It has high reference value. You can refer to a book or any other written document even after many years. Accountability. The author is responsible for whatever is written in the document. So, written communication has accountability. Now, we come to disadvantages of written communication. First point, time consuming. It takes a lot of time to write down something. Now take the example. I'm speaking over here. My speed is more. You are writing down these points. Your speed is less. So it is taking more time. Writing always takes more time than speaking. So it is time consuming. Then it is costly process. For writing down, you require paper, pencil, pen, etc. Then you have to keep it for future. So you require the storage facility. So like that, if you compare with speaking, writing is a costly process. It is unsuitable for illiterate people. People who cannot read or write cannot understand the written communication. Lack of personal touch. If you see, the advantages of oral communication are disadvantages of written communication, and advantages of written communication are disadvantages of oral communication. So in oral communication, you have personal touch. In written communication, you don't have personal touch. Here, you get delayed feedback. Best example of written communication is your exam. You are taught for the entire semester, and at the end, you have the exam. And in that written exam, teachers come to know whether you have understood or not. So here, feedback is not immediate, it takes long time. Next, as I told you earlier, there is problem of storage. When it is oral communication, you utter the words. What is word? What is oral communication? It is sound. So it disappears in the air. But when it comes to the written communication, it is on paper or it's in the form of a book, and you have to store it for the future. And it takes a lot of space. So there is problem of storage. Please note down all the points. I repeat, advantages of written communication: mass dissemination, suitable for long messages, exactness of message, proper official record, legal validity, high reference value, and accountability. Disadvantages of written communication: time consuming, costly process, unsuitable for illiterate people, lack of personal touch, delayed feedback, and finally, problem of storage. Is it clear to all?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Should
Yes,
I
ma'am.
change the slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now guidelines for effective use of written communication. Now, once again, we come to 7 C's of communication. First, clear. Whatever you are writing must be easy to understand. Second, concise. It means precise and to the point. Next, concrete. There should not be any abstract words leading to confusion. Next, correct. Factual correctness and grammatical correctness. There should not be any spelling errors, grammatical errors, punctuational errors, and obviously there should not be any errors in the matter. Next, coherent. There should be logical flow. Next, complete. It should cover everything. And the last one, courteous. It has to be polite. You should pay attention to the feelings and viewpoints of the receiver. So, here you are having 7 C's of communication: clear, concise, concrete, correct, coherent, complete, and courteous. Please note down all the points. You will come across this particular concept, 7 C's of communication, again and again. I repeat, clear, concise, concrete, correct, coherent, complete, and courteous. Should I change the slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Next, distinguish between oral and wait, oral and written communication. So, first we have oral communication, exchange of ideas, information, and message through spoken words. Now, all these points over here we have already seen. It is just arranged in 2 columns: oral communication and written communication. Second, literacy. Literacy is not required for oral communication. There is speedy transmission. There is scope for misunderstanding. There is no record of communication. It has no legal validity. There is immediate feedback. Its examples are lecture and telephone call. Next, we have written communication. Now see, this particular slide, it is distinguished between oral and written communication. You can get this question in the exam. So you have to write in 2 columns, point wise. So the first point of written communication, interchange of message, opinions, and information in written or printed form. Second, literacy is necessary for communication. See, compare and contrast between oral and written. For oral, literacy is not required. For written, literacy is necessary. Next, slow transmission. Next, no scope for misunderstanding. Next, proper records of communication. It has legal validity. However, there is delayed feedback. Its examples are newsletter and email. So note down these points in two columns. Compare and contrast oral and written communication. There are 8 points. As I told you before, advantages of oral communication are disadvantages of written communication, and advantages of written communication are disadvantages of oral communication. Okay, so here we stop for today. So I repeat, today is 6th August 2020. Your lecture is conducted at 11 a.m. Now you have to be careful with AM and PM also, because many people have written the wrong answer. Then your today's topic was methods of communication. Am I clear enough?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
We had already seen this particular topic when we did the concept of communication, but now in your third topic, that is methods of communication, we are doing it in detail. So in the next lecture, we will continue with non-verbal communication. Okay, so here I stop today's lecture. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye.